ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरुवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरो श्रीयुतापदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश श्रीरूपं साग्रजातं सहगना रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं सावधीतं सावधूतं परिजनासहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान् श्री नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण पृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामीति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे नमो महावदन्याय कृष्ण प्रेम प्रदायते कृष्णाय कृष्ण चैतन्य नामिने गौरत्वसे नमः। हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत श्री राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरोभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद हरे कृष्णा कृष्ण कृष्ण हरे 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 रामो 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna. So today I was, and I think few more sessions it will take. Sorry. I was thinking to discuss from this Madhurya Kadambini. So Madhurya Kadambini and Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has given his commentary on that. It's a very, very important book because it talks about the challenges our practitioners face. What are the exact challenges which he faces? What are the stages of Anishthit Bhajan Kriya, the unsteady devotion which we face? Like that. And also talks about the further stages. And both are important for us. It's important for us to know the challenges which we go through before crossing anartha nivritti. And it is also important for us to know sorry water is there. It's also important for us to know what are the higher stages, what happens at ruchi and what happens at asakti, like that. It's important for us to know. Why? Because one is, we should not presume that I am in that stage or very higher stage just when the spiritual life is going good for some time. That is one thing. Second important thing is to have the greed. Thank you. To have the greed. To have the greed in our heart that I want to reach at those stages. Actually, the goal of sadhana bhakti is to develop rag. It is explained if somebody is practicing sadhana bhakti and there's no desire for rag, like that. And that is why then he will not attain it. because Krishna will not push it to that person that way. So it is told that what happens, uh, because he's practicing sadhana bhakti, but his desire is constantly that I should develop some love for the Lord. I should develop some attachment for the Lord. And this kind of feeling is very important for his growth and acceleration. Otherwise, for millions of lifetimes, one may carry on continuing the sukruti or the pious activity. One will not attain Krishna. What Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told to Rup Goswami. Tatra lalyam api ekal mulyam. This greed to attain Krishna is the only price. There is a greed, there is a constant greed like that. So when a spiritual practitioner, when he is practicing sadhana bhakti, but his desire is that I should have some attachment for Krishna. I should develop some love for Krishna. Like that. Someday I should do something which pleases Krishna. Because Krishna is a person, the dealings with Krishna should be like we deal with a person. Like in this world, we see how we deal with the people like that. We are very personal, is it not? We feel when we are not able to deal properly, we feel bad. When we deal properly, we feel nice. When we are able to offer some happiness to some person, we feel good. When because of some of our acts, somebody feels disturbed, then we also feel bad. Is it not? But in our dealings with the holy name, with the scriptures, and sometimes even with the deities, it may not happen so. Like that. So, this one important aspect we have to understand that Krishna is a person and he very closely watches our intentions as we practice the devotional service. Like that. So, the signs of relationship, the rules for relationships is important to understand and apply in the realm of bhakti also. So, there are rules for relationship. In this world also, we find the relationship is not between the perfect people. Huh? Are any two people perfect in this world? Nobody is perfect. There's a teacher and student. Nobody is perfect. There's authority and subordinate. Nobody is perfect. And even the spiritual master and disciple, they may not be perfect. Like that. The life partners, husband and wife, may not be perfect. Like that. So the rules of relationship, it's not about perfection, but it's about the core of it is the right motivation and intention. That is very, very important. So when there is a relationship between the two people, first is they have the intention. Both wants to develop that relationship. Both are taking efforts and they're wanting to improve that relationships. Both are willing to bend in that relationships. Both are willing to forgive each other 1,000 times. Both are willing to say thank you 1,000 times. Both are willing to go extra mile to serve other. These are the general rules of relationships, right? And that's how it happens in the bhakti paradigm also, like that. So that's what pleases Krishna when we have the right intention. And when we are doing sadhana bhakti, but there is a desire. There is a desire in the heart, I want to have a relationship with Krishna. Why I'm emphasizing on this point? Because what happens when we are dealing with people, there are constant reciprocations. And we are able to understand by their gestures, by their actions, reactions, all that. But when it comes to Krishna, Krishna is also very much reciprocating, but we are not so sensitive. We are not so sensitive to catch Krishna's reciprocation like that. And our gross senses are so gross, we can only catch the gross reciprocations. Krishna is practically reciprocating every moment with all the living entities. What to say of for the devotees? How many things Krishna arranges practically every day in our lives. We all are testimony of Krishna's mercy. So much of Mahaprasadam and so much of Prasadam, so much of visiting of the holy places and being with the devotees. Very few people, if you take a survey, very few people you will find entire world also who have so much pilgrimages as the devotees have, like that. Is it not? So only by Krishna's mercy we have that. Despite having all that, because we are conditioned in certain way, so we are not able to sometimes sense how Krishna is offering us so much. So in dealings, in practicing our sadhana bhakti, there should be a desire to please the Lord. There should be a desire that someday I'll develop attachment for the Lord, like that. This should be there in our heart. I want to please the Lord. At least today I want to do something so that I please the Lord, like that. So this desire gives a lot of bliss in the heart. Heart becomes very joyful. And on the contrary, when this desire is not there, or we don't try to act as per this, like that, then the heart feels little vacuum. Sometimes it feels empty. And even after doing devotional service, there's kind of anxiety and distress that way. So, Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur mentions and Bhakti Tirth Maharaj explains why there is a distress in bhakti. Okay. Why there is distress in bhakti. Bhakti is supposed to give so much of bliss, like that. So much of bliss it's supposed to give, but there is some distress. So, Maharaj explains about the science of faith. I'll just read some lines from this. When there is genuine knowledge and understanding, there is corresponding attachment and absorption, like that. The real knowledge means understanding the necessity of engaging in devotional service. The more knowledge we have, Buddha Bhav Samanvita, the more we dedicate ourselves to Krishna. That's point number 1, which he is mentioning, which will come further also. The more knowledge we have, the more we dedicate ourselves to Krishna. When there is genuine knowledge and understanding, there is corresponding attachment and absorption, like that. This is the effect of the knowledge. Now, what happens? People face distress in situations. So when people face distress, how they react? When some people experience distress, their faith brings them to Krishna. When other people undergo distress, their faith leads them to vigorously engage in sense gratification. We may have had some faith in Krishna, but due to some challenge or problem in our life, we may actually start turning against Krishna or lose enthusiasm to participate in practically all devotional services. Another person may also have problems, but they just involve themselves more deeply in the devotional process. Each case relates to the quality of faith, which relates to the quality of consciousness. So Bhakti Devi notices and responds to the quality of faith in relationship to consciousness. So different devotees go through the challenges. तो अब जब उसकी लाइफ में चैलेंज आता है, किसी की लाइफ में, हम लोगों की लाइफ में जब चैलेंज आता है, जब प्रॉब्लम आता है, डिस्ट्रैक्शंस आता है, उस समय पे कहाँ पे हम लोग टर्न हो रहे हैं, इट्स एन इंडिकेशन ऑफ आवर स्पिरिचुअल प्रैक्टिस, इट्स एन इंडिकेशन ऑफ आवर स्पिरिचुअल कॉन्शियसनेस. तो एक व्यक्ति की लाइफ में जब चैलेंज आता है तो वो क्या है, वो कोई व्यक्ति है बहुत ज़्यादा ही में ओवर स्लीप just to avoid the problem, just to avoid something. Another person may overly engage in sense gratification when some problem comes. In outside world, most of the people start drinking. Those who are not drinking, they also take up to drinking when the stress increases. So people suggest you little bit drink and stress will go away. That way. Some people, as they face more problem, they may turn against Krishna also. We find people turn against Krishna. And other people, as they find problem, they start analyzing their life more, and they may go more deeply into their Krishna conscious activities. Like that. In same situations. It all depends on what is the quality of faith with which they are practicing Krishna consciousness. Hmm? Krishna is a very keen observer. Krishna notices very keenly. And Krishna never sleeps. He's very attentive. How my devotee is practicing devotional service, he's very attentive. How he's trying to serve me is very, very attentive. Vasudev, the leper. hmm, So Chetan Mahaprabhu was traveling through the South India and he went to Kurum Brahman and he met many people he met. And then Vasudev the leper, Vasudev Datta, who has a leprosy on his whole body, and he got to know that Chetan Mahaprabhu is coming next day, like that. One night before he got to know. So he thought I'll have a darshan. And next day he went and to there to have darshan and just got the news of Chetan Mahaprabhu has just left. And he started lamenting, I missed it, I missed it, I missed the darshan of Chetan Mahaprabhu. Started lamenting. The next moment, the Lord appeared and embraced Vasudeva Datta. The next moment, the Lord appeared and he embraced Vasudeva Datta. Like that. How? So, as Lord embraced Vasudeva Datta, his body was full of leprosy. Vasudeva Datta says, just this action of yours that you have embraced me. I have leprosy over my whole body. No jiva can come near me. No living entity can come near me. It's so disgusting, like that. Because just this action of yours shows that you are Supreme Personality of Godhead. So what happened? Lord was very careful to sense. As soon as he saw this kind of eagerness and loyalty in Vasudeva Datta, Lord came back. Similarly, we find Chaitanya Mahaprabhu suddenly changing decisions. You find that milk drinking brahmachari. He got a heavy chastisement for drinking milk. And he came and he saw Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's dance for some moments. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Srivas, I am not feeling the ecstasy today. And Srivas told, my dear Lord, you can try some more time. Again, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu started dancing. And again, after some time, he told, Srivas, I am not feeling some ecstasy. Today, I am not feeling the same ecstasy. Is there someone who is not supposed to be here? And Shiva said, my dear Lord, there are no atheists here. Like that. There are no Mayavadis here. Again, Lord started dancing. Again, he is not feeling the same ecstasy. And he is asking, Shivas, is there someone who is supposed to be here? And Shiva said, there's one simple, very austere brahmachari. Just have one glass of milk a day. Like that. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu became so angry. He became angry like Narasimhadev. And he shouted, where is that? Take him out immediately. What he can think just by this austerity? Does he have the right to participate in this Prem Sankirtan? And the brahmachari was trembling. But as he was going, what was there in his heart? He was feeling grateful. He thought, I do not deserve. I do not deserve to have the glimpse of this dance of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Like that. By mercy of Shiva's Thakur, I got it. I do not deserve it. Like that. And immediately Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took him back. After some time, he became the regular attendee of that Prem Sankirtan. Sudden change of decision by seeing his attitude. Similarly, we find Mukunda. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Mahaprakash Leela is giving mercy to everyone and anyone. But for Mukunda, he told only after 10 million lifetimes. And Mukunda started dancing, knowing what is the value of actually Lord's mercy. Even if 10 million lifetime goes away, it's not a big issue. And immediately he was called back that way. So Lord is a very keen observer, like that. So the small devotional acts which we do, when we do it for the pleasure of the Lord, like when we are offering the obeisances, when we are trying to chant the holy name, the one round we try to chant just for the pleasure of the Lord. We are standing in front of the Lord for the pleasure of the Lord, singing some devotional songs for the pleasure of the Lord. When we try to deal with him like a person in our capacity, whatever, when we try to read, hear, like that, when we are chanting the holy name, when we are reading, hearing, taking darshan, when we try to be exclusive, like that. Hmm? Like suppose you're talking to some person, right? And in between the call comes, like that. And you are seeing the call is there, but that person puts it on silent and keeps it, like that. He keeps talking to you. Again, some call comes, like that. And again, he puts it on silent and keeps it, like that. Third time the call comes, he puts it on flight mode, right? This shows that how much he values you, is it not? And immediately you'll be able to feel that, yeah, this person is actually able to value my time. Similarly, the Lord is watching how we perform the devotional activity. When we are chanting the holy name in between, if we pick up the phone, like that, it's very painful for the Lord. We are keeping the most VVIP aside that way. So, the Lord is watching. Krishnanand Prabhu would say, in when if somebody is allowing any other activity to affect the devotional, co-devotional activities, the chanting, reading, hearing, morning poem, it's like somebody stops the Rajdhani Express and gives way to passenger. The passenger train is generally stopped because some other trains has to pass. But stopping the devotional activity in between for doing other thing, it's like stopping the Rajdhani Express and allowing other trains to pass, like that. So these small activities, what happen? They are indicative of our faith. We do not have to do something extra in bhakti, but these activity we should try to do it in a way that it gives some pleasure to Krishna. And having that faith that Krishna is controlling the entire world, like that. So this is actually a sign of lack of faith when we are not able to chant, read, and hear properly, because we think that I am the controller, like that. But when we do these things exclusively, it's an indication of faith, and this indication will give us the strength, as is mentioned by Bhakti Tirth Maharaj here. When we'll face difficulty, when we'll go through some situation, the same situation may help us to go more deeper into Krishna consciousness, like that. But if we do not, if the faith is less, then it may affect us. So now we shall discuss bhakti and the symptoms of bhakti. Two kinds of bhakti. Uh, Devotional service performed with faith, and Mishra Bhakti, mixed devotional service. Mixed devotional service manifests in different ways. It is devotional service with some extra contamination that does not belong. For instance, you are trying to cook a meal, but because you are distracted, you add salt instead of sugar. So here the point Krishna Chakravarti Thakur is mentioning, भक्ति का जो स्वीटनेस है वो अफेक्ट हो जाता है मिश्र भक्ति से. तो मिश्र भक्ति में क्या है? कर्म मिश्र भक्ति, ज्ञान मिश्र भक्ति, योग मिश्र भक्ति, तीन तरह का वैरायटी. कर्म मिश्र भक्ति इंक्लूड भक्ति बट इट इज मिक्स्ड विथ फ्रूटिव मूड्स एंड डिजायर्स. कर्म मिश्र भक्ति में फ्रूटिव मेंटालिटी ज्यादा है. फ्रूटिव मेंटालिटी, डिजायर्स टू गेट समथिंग आउट ऑफ इट. Gyan Mishra Bhakti involve bhakti along with extensive mental speculation. Instead of trying to serve, to know and to experience. We are more in the mood of trying to be a pandita without following. Gyan Mishra Bhakti. तो मेंटल स्पेकुलेशन बहुत ज्यादा है, हाँ, और वो जानना चाहता है लेकिन सेवा करने का इच्छा उतना नहीं है. वो जानना चाहता है, अच्छा ये कैसे होता है, फिर वो कैसे होता है, उसमें क्या होता है, जानना चाहता है. इच्छा गलत नहीं है, पर क्या है, उतना सेवा का इच्छा नहीं है. He wants to know, he wants to experience, but he doesn't want to follow it that much, like that. One still deals with the activities and discussions of bhakti, but bhakti does not come forward so strongly because it is mixed. And Yog Mishra Bhakti means one is looking for powers, mysticism, perfection. योग मिश्र भक्ति में वो क्या है, परफेक्शन चाहता है, वो परफेक्शन में डिजायर उसकी सेंटर में, परफेक्शन इज नॉट एग्जैक्टली फॉर कृष्णा's प्लेजर बट बिकॉज ही इज अ परफेक्शनिस्ट, लाइक दैट, ही इज अ perfectionist. Yoga Mishra Bhakti. You want to achieve to have some power, some control, some mysticism, that way. So, Bhakti Devi is the inspiration for all activities favorable to the process of surrender. Like that. Just as a touchstone turns ordinary metal into gold, Bhakti combined with yoga, jnana, and karma will lead to some success. However, as the bhakti increases more and more, it turns into Shuddha Bhakti, like that. So now there is something mentioned, but I'll go directly to this point, which she mentions. There are some causes of distress, which Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur mentions on bhakti. First is lack of true knowledge. Second is false ego. Third is material attachments. Fourth is envy. And fifth is mundane engagements. So you all can note it, I'll explain it. What are the causes of distress? First is lack of true knowledge, second is false ego, third is material attachment, fourth is envy, fifth is mundane engagements. These are the causes of distress as we are practicing bhakti. There are specific causes of anxieties or problems and corresponding means to neutralize them. If we understand some of these negative causes of mixed devotion, we can see the enemy in order to avoid it and minimize its growth. Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur gives us a list of enemy that causes distress, like that. So that when we find ourselves in this type of mentality, we can understand the cause of our predicament. Our real devotees' distress only emerges due to their desire to serve Krishna better and their feelings of sorrow for the suffering people who are avoiding Krishna. There is really no other reason to feel distress. Any other reason is superfluous. तो जो शुद्ध भक्त होते हैं, दो ही कारण से उनको टेंशन होता है. क्या है उनके टेंशन का कारण? भगवान का सेवा अच्छे से नहीं हो रहा है, एक कारण टेंशन का. उनको लगता है कि भगवान का सेवा सफिशिएंटली अच्छे से नहीं हो रहा है. और दूसरा उनका टेंशन है जो दूसरों का टेंशन है. उनका खुद का टेंशन नहीं है, दूसरों के टेंशन को देख के उनको क्या है, टेंशन आ जाता है. अनदर इंपॉर्टेंट थिंग इज मेंशनिंग कि विश्वनाथ चक्रवर्ती ठाकुर ने जो कॉजेज लिखे हैं, अगर हम इनको सुनेंगे और अगर हम समझ जाएंगे कि ऐसा कुछ मेंटालिटी अगर हमारे साथ भी हो रहा है, देन वी कैन अंडरस्टैंड इट, मिनिमाइज इट एंड वर्क ऑन इट. पहला है लैक ऑफ ट्रू नॉलेज, like that. So first cause of distress is nescience or lack of knowledge, like that. The opposite is proper knowledge and understanding, like that. So this is related to understanding of the shastras, reading the shastras. So this also causes a lot of distress when one does not understand the science of bhakti properly. But when one is understanding the science of bhakti properly, at least at the level of understanding first, like that, properly understanding through shastra, through parampara, like that, that helps him to practice and take up to the right practices, like that. Second thing he mentions is false ego. So what is mentioned there? One is the theoretical knowledge which one should have. And also, when one start practicing, in knowledge, some application part is already included, generally whenever it is given in the scriptures. So as one start practicing based on the real knowledge, then what happened? He starts getting conviction on that knowledge. What is a theory? He starts owning the theory, like that. It's not just the theory of the book, then it is his own. Second thing mentioned is false ego, like that. So now in this false ego, he's mentioning that if we feel some distress, we should look to see what is dominating our consciousness. Is it nescience, or I am taking too much mental shelter of the illusion? Am I blocking my mind and intelligence from full absorption in the reflections of transcendence? The point here which he is mentioning is in the false ego is uh, much of the false ego is centered on selfishness. The more we think of ourselves, the more we are supporting or fueling the fire of false ego. Gradually, we'll begin to feel gloomy, and our enthusiasm will burn away along with our devotional credits. Like that. What is important is mentioned in the false ego here is people too much when they're too much thinking about themselves. Like that. Too much there's a thought about themselves. Basically, I and mind becomes very prominent. Like that. So even in devotional service, when I and mind becomes very, very prominent, it becomes unhealthy. Anywhere you will find that I and mind becoming prominent, it increases anxiety. That is why in the Vedic culture, the whole culture was designed in such a way the person was forced to serve. And he was a kind of propelled to think how to serve others. Like that. And if you see in the modern culture, as the times are changing, the whole culture is designed in such a way person is propelled to think how to enjoy that way. And basically, enjoy means me and mine, my senses. So that causes the problem like that. So either inferiority complex or superiority complex like that. That causes, okay, why too much of even this thought that too much of victim consciousness. Maharaj writes here that everything, uh, uh, if we act according to our own plan and try to relate it to Krishna, ego will cause us to stumble in different ways and we will feel distress. We should try to think of how to bring about the greatest spiritual effect and position ourselves to assist either directly or indirectly. Everything that deals with Mishra or mixed bhakti brings pain and distress. We do not want to pass months, years, or lifetimes in anxiety. We all experience anxiety from time to time, and it is very hellish like that. So the mindsets, these kind of mindsets in which one person constantly thinks about himself, these mindsets are very intense and lead us to a dark well without any light for us, like that. The more that we just think of ourselves, the more we increase the false ego. So we have problems, we have challenges, and we also have responsibilities. But you will find overthinking about that puts a person into the cycle of हाँ, जैसे वो कैसेट होता है ना, वो कैसेट का पहले वो आता था ना, वो प्लेयर रहता था, वो ऐसे उसमें वो मूव होता था, उसमें भी शायद वापस लगाते थे, तो उसमें कई बार वो रिपीट मोड में चला जाता है, देखा है कैसेट में वो रिपीट मोड में चला है, तो रिपीट मोड में चला जाता है तो वो एक ही लाइन रिपीट करता है. वो कैसेट का प्लेयर क्या होता है, वो एक ही लाइन रिपीट करता है बार बार, वो रिपीट मोड में चला जाता है. तो कोई सॉन्ग चल रहा है या कुछ भी चल रहा है तो वही लाइन वो बार बार रिपीट करेगा. इसी तरह too much of false ego means too much of thinking about I and mind brings a person in a very unhealthy consciousness. Like that. Brings a person in, it makes a life very, very unhealthy. Like that. So now we can see about in society how generally people live. They become too much conscious about अभी मेरे कैरियर का क्या होगा, मेरे इसका क्या होगा, मेरे इसका क्या होगा, मेरी फैमिली का क्या होगा, मेरी कार को तो कुछ हुआ नहीं, लाइक दैट. मेरे को इतना टेंशन उसको रहता है मेरे मेरे का, लाइक दैट, है ना. तो सिमिलरली व्हेन वी कम इन भक्ति आल्सो, मेरी भक्ति का क्या होगा. It is good tension, but it should not be in a more selfish way, like that. Sometimes we become so selfish, we are not concerned what's happening with others who are there with us, their bhakti. We are not concerned about that. We are not much concerned about the devotees, the deities, and the fellow beings. We are only concerned about our life. That way. This blocks. This blocks the creeper of bhakti. Like that. Means too much of thinking in a selfish way. So there should be a concern about some devotional service like that. But this too much of thinking generally goes also in the material terms, material life also. Because material life is leading with dealing with endless competition like that. And the only way to get uh, above, to get success, seems to be when you're constantly focusing on oneself only. Like that, you forget the whole world and you just focus on yourself like that. So it makes us very very selfish like that. So person is enjoying the success of us. So all the things, Maharaj was once traveling, I was reading this past time in one book, and some coaching's advertisement was there, and the advertisement was hitting the bullseye, and that arrow is there, no? Like that, that arrow was there, and they were showing that hitting the bullseye, and Maharaj saw it, and then Maharaj commented, such a cruel way of depicting success. Like that. So the point which is mentioned here is, uh, when we are looking for the healthy, because you will find many of these things are dealing with mentality, what Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur has said. Third things he mentions about is material attachments. Material attachments are the third cause of distress because all material objects are actually temporary. An eternal being who makes the material priority will definitely feel miserable. Simply looking at food in a window cannot satisfy a hungry person. Someone may bring a large plate of artificial fruits and vegetables, but you cannot enjoy it. You may wonder what is happening. I still feel weak and hungry. It looks so beautiful, but it is not nourishing. Hmm? You are understanding? Maharaj is mentioning that point. Hmm? तो कोई प्लास्टिक के फ्रूट और वेजिटेबल सब कुछ लेके आ गया. It looks so beautiful, more beautiful than the original ones. But one may feel it's not nourishing, it is so beautiful like that. So Maharaj is mentioning the point, when people put excessive energy into the enjoyment of material attachments, they will feel great distress because this material pleasure does not give real stimulation. Another important point Maharaj is mentioning here. So we all have material needs. We should not increase it beyond a certain point. That is one thing. Second thing, whatever objects and resources we have, we should utilize it in Krishna's service. Huh? Otherwise, they will start owning us. There will be a contamination in that. And third point in this is, we should not push too much over endeavor in trying to enjoy materially like that, because the enjoyment will not come from those things that way. So we should not try to too much put endeavor to enjoy materially. The fourth cause he's writing is envy. Hmm? His writing is envy. In the envy, he is writing about this principle that a devotee feels the happiness of others as well as their distress. They are to be selfless and compassionate. A devotee said that he is not serving better and sad due to the distress of another. In this way, devotee do not envy because they feel happy when others are happy. There's no question of envy. The mindset of self-centeredness will draw envy. Ironically, the more people put their energy into thinking about themselves, the more they suffer. If you have prepared a nice meal, example he is giving, if you have prepared a nice meal, but continue to add improper ingredients, what happens? You will not make a better preparation. If you try to fix the sweet rice by adding salt, it will not taste better. The more salt you add, the worse it will taste. So here is pointing out that again it's dealing with mentality. Like What is our thought process towards the world? What is our thought process towards the devotees with whom we are living? What is our thought process for our god brothers, our equals, our juniors, our superiors, our relatives, like that? So this is a very important thing, that our thought process should be healthy. And this hearing, reading, all this we are doing because we want to have a healthy thought process. Bhagavad Gita speaks about ध्यायतो विषयान् पुंसा संगस्तेषु पजायते संगात् संजायते कामा कामात् क्रोधो विजायते क्रोधो भवति सम्मोहा सम्मोहा स्मृति विभ्रमा स्मृति भ्रंशात् बुद्धिनाशो बुद्धिनाशात् प्रणश्यति. Right. So Bhagavad Gita talks about dhyato. It all begins with dhyato. Have the right thoughts, like that. Have the right thought. Dhyato vishayan pumsa. Because the thoughts are not right. Sangasteshu vijaya. Because whatever you are thinking, it does not stop with the thinking. That is a problem. And this is a major challenge you will find. Major challenge which happens with people who have gone through some abuse. This is a major challenge happens with someone who is ill-treated, who is mistreated, like that. Anybody in some families, you will find these are the major challenges. Like suppose some ladies got married. Now the mother-in-law didn't treat it properly, which is a common kind of situation in India. Anywhere it happens, mother-in-law. So if some woman is not treated properly by the mother-in-law, something mother-in-law have done some 10 years ago, 15 years ago, it's very difficult to forget for them. Dhyato, and that cassette keep repeating, right? It does not stop with a thought. We'll find somebody is being abused in certain way. Some children, they go on to become terrorists. They become suicide bombers. Why? They're not able to forget. Any home, some wrong thing is happening. You will find people become victimized. They keep repeating the same thing. They keep repeating the same thing. It's happening. It's happening. It's happening. He's dealing like this. This person is dealing like this. So mother-in-law say, "Arey, our bahu is like this. She always does like this, like that." Everywhere some problem which they catch up, and that's what they hook on to. Dhyato is a very important factor in trying to repair our life, in trying to change our life, or in trying to affect our life. Negative thought process which we carry towards people, towards relatives, towards friends, and it may happen towards devotees also, like that. So that keeps ringing like that. Dhyato Vishyan Punsa. And these are the 8 stages mentioned in 2.62 and 63, which used to fall down. That way. So what is important is to change at dhyato, at thinking level. Feeling level, it's difficult. Willing level, it becomes very, very difficult. Like that. So that is why when we are reading Shastras, it gives us an opportunity, reading and hearing. And on top of it, if we are able to contemplate. Contemplation is not a small activity. Contemplation is a process of changing thought process. Why? Because when we are reading or hearing, we are listening. When we are reading, we are hearing, we are making notes. But when we contemplate after that, we start thinking. Okay, this is there. When we revise also, we think, okay, what was the important point? And after that, when we have to write something in contemplation, ठीक है अभी इसमें क्या बोला था, इससे क्या है, तो सोचना पड़ेगा ना थोड़ा. ये मेहनत हम लोग करना नहीं चाहते. ये मेहनत हम लोग करना नहीं चाहते, सोचने वाली मेहनत. दिस इज वेरी इंपॉर्टेंट फॉर अस. क्यों? क्योंकि हम ये नहीं सोचेंगे, अगर इसके बारे में नहीं सोचेंगे जो शास्त्रों में लिखा है, then we keep thinking about what is the regular contemplation, which is a negative contemplation. कि उसने ऐसा बोला था, फिर वो डिवोटी ने ऐसा किया था, फिर वो घर में ऐसा हुआ था, फिर वो वैसा हुआ था, वो ऐसा बोलता है, वो वैसा करता है. Correct? So we all are victims of negative contemplation, negative dhyato. We all are victims of that. Yeah. 10 साल पहले जो चीज़ हो गई थी वो भी हम भूलते नहीं हैं। हम्म? लोग बोलते हैं इस्कॉन में भी ऐसा होता है, टेम्पल में भी ऐसा होता है, ये भी वैसा होता है. इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट टू फॉरगेट थिंग्स, इज इट नॉट? That is why reading and hearing is an opportunity to transport ourselves to the spiritual world without visa. Hmm? Without money, you can transport us to the spiritual world. Why? Because we are reading and hearing and we see such pastimes, such amazing pastimes. Like that. Chetan Mahaprabhu, I am forgetting the pair of that. Chetan Bhagavat. Very sweet. Chetan Charitam. All the Bengali Vaishnavas are coming to meet Chetan Mahaprabhu. Bengali Vaishnavas are coming and they're coming through very, very difficult paths. हाँ, सघन पथ, बहुत कष्ट करके, बहुत, हाँ, और गौर प्रीति इतनी, उसमें उन लोगों में गौर के प्रति इतनी प्रीति उत्पन्न हो गई, अपने पति को, पुत्र को, पिता को, घर को सब छोड़ के वो लोग चेतन महाप्रभु से मिलने आते थे. 3 महीने रहते थे, 3-4 महीने चेतन महाप्रभु के साथ रहते थे. तो चेतन महाप्रभु से जब मिलने आते हैं वो बंगाली वैष्णव, चेतन महाप्रभु बोलते हैं कि आप लोगों का इतना प्रेम मेरे लिए है, मुझे लेकिन अच्छा नहीं लगता. आप लोग इतना कष्ट करके आते हैं, इतने दुर्गम पथ है, कुछ उस समय ट्रेन नहीं, कुछ नहीं, अपने घर वालों को छोड़ के, कुछ खाने पीने का बीच में अरेंजमेंट है कि नहीं, कितना चीज छोड़ के मेरे लिए आते हैं. तो मुझे लगता है कि मैं इसको बैन कर दूं. चेतन महाप्रभु बोलते हैं मुझे लगता है इस यात्रा को मैं बैन कर दूं. Then he tell, but what to do? I am greedy for all of your association. So because of that, I am not able to ban this yatra. Chetan Mahaprabhu says. पर मेरे को इतना लोभ है आप लोगों के संग का, so I am not able to forbid you from coming here. So then Chetan Mahaprabhu says, I am a sannyasi. मैं सन्यासी हूँ, मेरे पास तो कुछ है ही नहीं, अपना तो मेरे पास कुछ है ही नहीं, ये केवल ये एक देह है. So you can sell it wherever you want. It's yours. Chetan Mahaprabhu is telling to Bengali Vaishnavas like that. Then Advaitacharya says, my dear Lord, like what gift you have given to the world, like that, the whole world forever remain indebted for the gift which you have given, like that. And by such dealings, you are purchasing all the devotees again and again, something like that. Words of Advaitacharya. So the point is, when we are reading the Shastra and we start little contemplating, and because the contemplation is not natural, we take out little time aside for it and start writing. It's a very powerful way of replacing positive thoughts. Similarly, gratitude journal is a very powerful way of beginning the day. When we begin the day with the gratitude, like that. Why? Because it replaces our thoughts. This is the way, because dhyato changes, everything will change. Like that. How the great souls are thinking. How amazingly, what is their thought process, how they are thinking. It's very amazing. Like that. How Ramananda Rai is thinking, how Sarvam Bhattacharya is thinking, what is the thought of Chetan Mahaprabhu, what is the thought of Rupa and Sanatan Goswami. It's so amazing, like that. Pure souls, how beautifully they think. How amazing it is to reflect upon their thought. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami has written such beautiful book, and every chapter he is writing Rup Raghunath Pade Rahu Morash Chaitanya Charitamrita Kahe Krishnas. Only by the mercy of the Rup and Raghunath I am able to do this. It's constantly remembering their mercy that way. We read the biographies of Srila Prabhupada. Prabhupada has spread a worldwide movement. What is his thought process? Like that. So great thoughts are very important. Right thoughts are very important. So opposite of envy. If we don't have right thought process, then we think more of ourselves. Then we more blame situations. We blame the people. We blame such and certain circumstances, like that. We may blame Krishna also, that way. And we keep fighting the battles which are already over. तो क्या होता है जीवन में कुछ सिचुएशन हो जाती है, so it is that uh, don't try to fight the battle which is already lost. अब जीवन में जो हो गया, we should not try to too much bring back the same situation by discussing on it too much. सब नेगेटिव सिचुएशन, सब नेगेटिव पर्सन, किसी डिवोटीज के साथ कुछ नेगेटिव इंटरेक्शंस हो गया, लाइक दैट, तो अगर अभी रिपेयर हो चुका है अभी, so by repeatedly bringing and discussing that in family especially, we'll find we relive the same situation by having the negative thought process. And that is a common thing you will find in the families. They relive the same situation like that, which has already happened some years ago, that way. So dhyato should positive. Otherwise, envy blocks us. When we think negatively about others, when we are not happy about others getting mercy, like that, or when we want to be the center of attraction always, these are the blocks, like that. So it can be counteracted by having the positive thought process. And the fifth is writing mundane engagements. Mundane engagement. This also causes distress. Now we are looking for the nectar of Krishna consciousness. We are looking for the sweet fruit of Krishna consciousness. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu has incarnated to garland the whole world with holy name and to give the fruit of love of God to everyone. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu took a seed and threw it in the ground, and the mango tree came up immediately, instantly. And immediately the mangoes came, and the all ripened mangoes, special mangoes, no seed and no skin. And one mango was sufficient to quench the hunger of a person, like that. That is a mango of pure devotional service. So we want to relish pure devotional service. We have to understand, we have to give up the mundane engagements, like that. It doesn't matches well. That is another cause of distress. So we have to list down what are the mundane engagements. See, one important thing which we may have to try. I have to also try to start this thing. When I went to Gorakhpur, I was talking to Maharaj Bhaktidev Damodar Maharaj. I asked Maharaj, how are you? How you here? So I asked one question in the lecture. So Maharaj answered, you should properly hear. Like that he told. You should properly hear. And he said, also look closely at the quality association. Then after the lecture, I went to Maharaj's room. So I asked Maharaj, how you hear? Like, so Maharaj said, I every day hear. I every day read. And then Maharaj told, and I apply. So from that, I took that point that I'm still trying to work on it sometime. When Prabhupada is writing in the purport of Tadvag Visargo Janitad Viplavo, this shloka, Prabhupada is writing in the purport, we are not concerned with the language, we are concerned with the techniques. So there might be many grammatical errors in the language and the grammatical presentations, but the techniques are important. So whatever we read, whatever we hear in spiritual life, and as we all are reading, hearing, and many of us are also preaching Krishna consciousness, it is important we keep applying some things little. It may not extend all the time, but whatever, like today I heard something, let me try to apply it for today. Like that. That is one thing I thought. And second thing, I thought that every reading and hearing, it requires some homework after that also. One is the homework of contemplation, little bit contemplating about it, little bit thinking about it, and that what we read and heard, how it can be applied. That is why previously this was one of the habits the sages would do. We are modern day sages, we are busy with many things. But previously people have this habit. What is the habit? They would think about it. It's not that they're all the time reading. So they would read something, they would hear something, and then they contemplate, thinking about it, just sitting and thinking. Previously people may not make also so much notes sometimes. Now it is good to make like that, and they would actually think, okay, how this thing can be applied. They read something, they heard something, they would think how it can be applied that way. So this is one homework needs to be there whenever. So one lecture also could be sufficient for a day, even 25, 30, 45 minutes we hear, it is sufficient for a day actually. If we little bit just revise the lecture, little bit contemplate, sometimes we get 10, 15 minutes, we just think about what we read in the lecture, how it has to be applied, like that. So it's an important activity which is called as chintan. When one is contemplating about the spiritual truths, what is being spoken, like that. Very wonderful activity actually. It's very. So the fifth cause is mundane engagements. What is a mundane engagement? When we are practicing devotional service and along with that something which is unhealthy, we are not giving it up. Like that. So if you want to read and hear properly, just because somebody is in mode of goodness, so uncleanliness will disturb him. It will not be easy for him to stay in unclean environment. It will disturb his mind. Like that, somebody is Brahmanical, it will not. So he wanted to have clean things. Similarly, if we want to have a clean heart, then unhealthy activity should disturb us. Like that. If too much of prajalpa is happening, if I am relishing it, this is called a mundane engagement. If I'm getting into some reading which is not Krishna conscious, not needed, like that. People may get into newspapers and may scrutinize the newspapers, like that. So if somebody is doing it and is actually preparing for some UPSC and the things are needed in that way, that's another thing. But otherwise, this all becomes a block. And similarly, there's so much notifications come in YouTube and all when you see new mobile you have. And actually, any notification they give a very good tagline. So I think reporters are empowered in that way. They are trained in that way. Heading is important. Content is not much important. Heading is important. So every YouTube video or something, they give a tagline. Then person they will let me look at it, and then he goes into it. So these are some of the mundane engagements. Engaging in prajalpa, like that. Sometimes reading newspaper, watching some, listening to some non-Krishna conscious songs, all these things like that, and so on. Somebody playing card, wasting times, so and many different things you can think of. So these five things causes distress for us. One is the lack of true knowledge, means not reading shastras properly and not applying. Second is false ego, which too much thinking about oneself. Third is material attachments, like that, which causes means material attachments mean attachments to the temporary things and excessive endeavors to attain that. Fourth is envy, negative thought process about others, unhealthy thought process about others. And fifth is mundane engagements, when we engage in things which are not healthy for Krishna consciousness. Now, the solution which Maharaj writes in this is, Vishwanath Thakur mentions is, so in the solution part, he is mentioning these four things: aprarabdha phalam papam, kutam bijam, phalonmukham. Like that. So bijam is a stage, then kutam is a stage primary to even sowing the seed. And then bijam, and then aprarabdha prarabdha. Prarabdha is what is being matured reaction which we are getting. Aprarabdha, the fruit which has not yet been manifested. And some reactions which are there in the seed form which will yet to manifest, like that. Maharaj is mentioning in the analogy कि हमने कुछ काम कर दिया है, पहले कर्म जो किए हमने उसके अनुसार कुछ चीजें मैनिफेस्ट हो रही है, उसको हैंडल करना हमारा बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. जैसे एक बार कोई फसल है, कोई पौधा है, वो बढ़ जाता है, उसकी रूट्स डीप हो जाती हैं, उसको काटना बहुत मुश्किल हो जाता है. ये दूसरा क्या है, अगर हमने उसको ऊपर से काट भी दिया तो ये सारी जो चीज़ें हैं जैसे ऑस्टेरिटी है, चैरिटी है, ये सारी चीज़ें हैं, ये 6th कैंटो में आता है। परीक्षित महाराज पूछते हैं सुखदेव गोस्वामी से, राइट। सो इससे क्या है, वो ऊपर से तो कट जाता है लेकिन इसको रूट बची रहती है। तो वो जो रूट है उसको वापस से फेवरेबल कंडीशन मिलती है, पानी वानी पड़ता है, वापस से वो वापस आ जाता है। जैसे घास को ऊपर से काटते हैं तो क्या होता है, वापस बरसात होती है, वापस से वो हो जाता है ये। तो इसीलिए जो पहला स्टेज है उसको शुरू से वो वीड से, रूट से इरेडिकेट करना इम्पोर्टेंट है ये। और बेस्ट है कि अर्लीस्ट स्टेज पे करना ज़्यादा बेस्ट है। जितनी स्टेजेस प्रोग्रेस हो जाती हैं उतना उसको इरेडिकेट करना क्या है, डिफिकल्ट रहता है। सो नाउ आई विल रीड I'll read from this. If we do not win, so we have to, the essence of all this is, uh, we have to check it and stop the plans for sin. The essence of answer is we have to stop further thinking negatively, acting negatively, and planning to engage in some wrong thing like that. For example, when Lord Chaitanya cleaned the Gundicha temple, he cleaned the gross and subtle. Then he even cleaned the outside. He not only looked closely at the gross and subtle, but he also made arrangements to prevent these contamination from re-entering. A very specific point Maharaj is mentioning. If we do not deal with the seed and the mentality that produces the weeds will grow gradually, choking the creeper. It is much more difficult to root out the weed once it has grown strong and developed fully. It requires a greater endeavor to change once we situate our consciousness and senses in Maya. It becomes very difficult because the contamination is now a part of our consciousness. When we fall, the deviation permeates our existence. It has a reverberating effect, so it takes more credits and adjustment to try to pick ourselves up. Some people may never pick themselves up properly because the effects just vibrate throughout their consciousness. For this reason, it is much better to avoid the deviation and not let the seed enter. However, if the seed is there, take it out. It is easier to remove a seed than to remove an entire plant along with its root. Then the initial weed may shed new seeds that will cause more weeds to appear. Example, the presence of one cockroach indicates the presence of many others who will certainly produce more. If it remains around after a while, the entire house will be infested with the cockroaches. If you just let the problem continue, then they will begin to jump out of cabinet, drawers, and closets, and you will wonder how the problem began in the first place. Maybe you had some food or garbage that sat for too many days. You created an environment that summoned the insect. If you prevent such an environment from developing, you will not have to deal with such consciousness. If we do not have alert consciousness, we will bring various contamination into our mind and our lives, and we will undergo distress in trying to eliminate the problems that could have been avoided in the first place. Devotional service is simple but becomes complicated when we are dishonest, lazy, and take Maya for granted. So this is a solution he is offering. Devotional service is simple, but it becomes complicated when we are lazy. One thing, we are lazy, we are not willing to commit. Second is we are dishonest. Dishonest means we hide things like that. We try to pretend we are more sincere when we are not, like that. That is another thing. And third is we take Maya for granted. We are thinking that it will happen. So the essence Maharaj is telling, these 5 problems which he mentioned, and most of them are dealing with the mentality which we are having in our life, like that. And the solution he is telling is to have the right mentality. that we take devotional service little seriously, and we understand who I am, what are the problems I am faces, what are the challenges I have. Every devotee has some unique problems, unique concerns, unique challenges. Remaining honest about it and taking some commitment to come out of it, praying to the Lord, praying to the Vaishnavas, seeking the help, do whatever is needful, like that. It's like a patient suffering from some disease, like that. So, in a patient suffering from some disease, so patient is not lazy, nor he is dishonest, nor he take disease for granted. And the disease of the heart is the greatest disease, because the disease of the body can be cured in the hospitals, but the Hridaya disease, the Hridaya rog, is the highest. So we have to treat it in the same way we treat the material disease, like that. So first is we should not be dishonest. Now somebody gets some disease. Now disease may appear anywhere at any part of body, like that. Anywhere it may happen. But if you want to get cured, you have to be, you cannot be dishonest. You have to tell the doctor what actually is happening, right? And that's how it happens. Any diseased person gets like that. Second is we cannot be lazy. So once you show to the doctor may tell certain thing. The patient takes it very, very careful, like that. He is not lazy in trying to remove that disease. The disease may happen in the private parts or anywhere. But he goes to the doctor, shows to the doctor, doctor tells, he takes all the necessary precautions. He is not lazy in trying to eradicate the disease, like that. And he does not take it for granted. He understands there can be very heavy consequences. So see how Maharaj is writing. First is not let the seed enter. That is the first thing he's telling, the best thing. हाँ, वो सीड को ही मत आने दो, बेस्ट है, नेचुरली बेस्ट है वो. पर एनीवे सीड आ गया है, स्टार्ट वर्किंग, बिकॉज अगर वो प्लांट बन जाएगा तो और डिफिकल्ट हो जाएगा. सो द प्रिंसिपल इज सूनर इज द बेस्ट, because the sooner the efforts required are the least. So bhakti process is simple, and if we just try our best and we put our endeavor in a best process, in a best way, in a right direction, then Krishna will send the necessary help, by which we again reinstate ourselves in Krishna consciousness in a proper way. So this is a part. Then further Maharaj explains about the Anishtit Bhajan Kriya, which we will explain next time. Anybody has any comments, questions, additions? So thank you very much. This is an important section you may also go through. Vishnu Chakravarti has written beautiful commentaries for this. Okay. Yes.
Okay,
Shimon, yeah. You want to say something? Yeah.
yes, thank you for this wonderful class. So I just want to ask the causes of distress in bhakti. ये सिर्फ भक्ति में करने वाले लोगों के लिए या फिर सबके लिए?
Other people are already too much distressed. They are naturally distressed. But the point is, Vishnu Chakravarti mentions here is, even as we practice bhakti, actually, there are 6 symptoms of pure devotional services. First is Kleshagni. That Kleshagni is that the distress will go away. But Kleshagni and Shubda, these two symptoms, they get fully manifested at the stage of Nishtha, like that. So before that, there are the kleshas get destroyed, but there are some distress still remains. So acharyas are very merciful. They point out why actually, despite practicing bhakti, we face some distress in our life. So when we know that, we become aware, and whatever little steps we take in those direction, It becomes very practical. Bhakti is a very, very practical science that way. So whenever I also, once I have read this section previously, and again, whenever we read this section, it's very inspiring like that. Why? Because we got to know that these are the things. And what happened? These are basically much related to the weakness we have. So, of course, I have attachments, I have this thing, that thing. But when we read and try a little bit in that direction, something I give up today, then that much level of joy also I feel today. That's how I understand it. Yes.
थैंक यू प्री प्री ये कहाँ पे मतलब अगर पढ़ना होगा इसके बारे में और डिटेल किसमें है
This is, I can send also. Madhurya Kadambini is one book. Madhurya Kadambini. You will get in Veda base also. And this I am reading. What I am reading is from book of Bhakti Tirth Maharaj. Reflections on Madhurya Kadambini. Yes.
थैंक यू
Yes.
Hare Krishna Guruji.
Yes, Abhishek.
Thank you Guruji for the class. My question was, जैसा कि आपने बताया that there are two kinds of devotional service. One is pure devotional service, another is mixed devotional service. So it can be mixed with karma, or it can be mixed with jnana, or mixed with yoga. So the question is, how to identify that on which stage I am practicing devotional service, and is it possible for an impure soul to practice, impure conditioned soul to practice pure devotional service? Because as one time Tamal Krishna Maharaj asked from Srila Prabhupada how many pure devotees are there, so he said that how many ISKCON devotees are there, so those who are practicing purely. So how to identify that on which platform we are, and how to make sure that is it like one has to go through Karma Mishra Bhakti, Yoga Mishra Bhakti and all those to reach pure devotional service, or we can make sure that it is not mixed with any of these things?
Yeah, so thank you. The point is, one is 9 stages of devotional service, like that: Shraddha, Sadhu, Sang, Bhajan, Kriya, Nishtha, Ruchi, Asakti, Bhav, Prem, those all. So that is one aspect. In that we can see, if you see in that categorization, Shraddha begins with the initial faith, and after Shraddha, Anarth Nivritti is a Shraddha, Sadhu, Sang, Bhajan, Kriya, become an association of devotees. Bhajan Kriya is under guidance of spiritual master. Bhajan Kriya, which is mentioned, it's not that anybody is singing any bhajan. He is singing the bhajan of Laghveer Singh Lakha, and that's not Bhajan Kriya. Bhajan Kriya is actually a guided process in one way. And when Bhajan Kriya is done properly, Anarth Nivritti. Now, Anarth Nivritti Nishtha, in between that there is Anishthit Bhajan Kriya, where the bhajan is not very steady. Anishthit Bhajan Kriya has 5-6 stages: Vashya Sangar, Tarang Rangini, Vyud Vikalp, like that. These are the stages in Anishthit Bhajan Kriya, which a devotee grows to. Nishtha is a big platform. Nishtha we can understand in one way. In Nishtha, one remains steady. Nishtha, one does not break the vows. In Nishtha, one will not break the vows. Like that. That can be one indication to understand whether we are at Nishtha or not. And Nishtha, one may give up his life, he will not give up the vow. Generally. Like that. Nishtha stage, one never turn back. Like that. One may not have a very strong taste, but definitely one has a good amount of taste. Like that. Good amount of taste one has. One will never turn back from Nishtha stage. So that is, so generally Nishtha is a quite big platform. So many of us may be at definitely at Anishthit Bhajan Kriya, that kind of stage, most likely. Anarth Nivritti is generally considered the longest stage, considered as the longest stage. It's like a mountain. And it is said that afterwards the path becomes easy. It's like the downhill after that. That is one thing. Second thing, in Bhajan Kriya, in Bhakti, anybody can practice pure devotional service. It's not that impure soul cannot. Everybody is impure in the beginning. So first is pure seed is required. So Shivram Maharaj book, if we read that book he has written, Shuddha Bhakti Chintamani, in that he explains in detail like that. Ki, what is a pure faith, what is an impure faith, what is bhakti avas. Many technical details he explains in that. But at our stage, to understand and practically apply is what Rupa Goswami is mentioning, the definition of pure devotional service. That is a standard definition which we consider, which is given in NOD. Annavilashita shunyam jnana karma anavritam anukulena krishnanu shilinam bhakti ruttama. So these components we try to bring into devotional service. Annavilashita shunyam, there should be no other desire. It's not that no other desire, abhilashita shunyam, not abhilasha shunyam. So there can be other desires like that. In sense of ita is included because somebody may no other desire than to please Krishna, pure devotional services. But Draupadi is praying to Krishna for life. Arjuna is praying to Krishna and Brahmastra is being thrown at him like that. That is why ita is added. So when there is life-threatening situation, one may pray. One can pray to the Lord. That is being allowed that way. Otherwise, one should only have a desire to please Krishna. Like that. He should have a desire to please Krishna. Now, in NOD, there is a great discussion. Krishna means not only Krishna. Krishna means not only Krishna. Krishna includes all the Swamshas. Krishna includes all the devotees, his paraphernalia, like that. All that is included in Krishna. So the desire to please Hari, Guru and Vaishnav, that is included in pure devotional service. Like that. Gyan karmadi anavritam. So knowledge which is favorable for devotional service is good. Activities which are for service of Lord is good. Anavritam. ज्ञान कर्म योग जिससे बचना है, किससे? अनावृतम, जो भक्ति को आवृत्त कर रहा है. अगर कोई ऐसा ज्ञान है जो भक्ति को आवृत्त कर रहा है, that we want to avoid. Like impersonalism is there, so that we want to avoid. That is, it's not that reading of the scriptures is not appreciated, that is appreciated. And अनुकूलेना, वो भगवान के लिए अनुकूल भाव से करना है हमको. तो हम लोग कर रहे हैं कुछ एकदम ग्रजिंग मूड में कर रहे हैं, ऑफरिंग, हर चीज का ऑफरिंग लगाना, मन बोल रहा है क्या टाइम बाद हर चीज का ऑफरिंग लगाना पड़ रहा है. वही मंत्र बोलो. So what happens, it brings down that activity to the level of just a pious activity. It's not a spiritual activity because there is no spirit in it. But somebody is offering, there is some thought, anukul. ठाकुर जी को भोग लगाना है या लॉर्डशिप्स को भोग लगाना है, गौर निताय को लगाना है. At least he is chanting the mantra. There is some thought in the heart. My dear Lord is praying, please come, please honor. Like that. It becomes a spiritual activity. Anukulena Krishnanu. Shilanam means it's a cultivation. Rupa Goswami is writing it's a cultivation. So if we try to stick as closely, we try to stick to this definition, anybody can practice pure devotional service. But like everything has a price, this pure devotional service has a price, which we all can practice. And what happened? We practice, but it may not be very steady all the time. So sometimes there is a mission also. There is a mixed things which is added. Getting the point? That way. Because pure devotional service also, then there is level, how it goes. So that's my understanding about it. Somebody wants to add in it, you can add in it. Thank you very much, all of you, for your patient listening. have nice absorption in Gaur Katha. Chaitan Mahaprabhu is going to appear soon. So Chaitan Mahaprabhu round the whole world in chanting the holy name. Hmm? Mhm. So he came to establish this Yug Dharma. So one of the common things in Chaitan Mahaprabhu's Leela, so Damodar Prabhu was mentioning in the lecture, that is his childhood pastimes, his Pagan Leela, Kashore Leela, and Bal Leela. Common thread is he induced everyone to chant the holy name. He just induced everyone to chant the holy name. He came to give this gift of holy name. So very sweet pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So take out time wherever you can. You can read in Chaitanya Bhagavat. It's there in Vedabase, writings of past acharyas. Writings of acharyas, you'll get Chaitanya Bhagavat. Or in CC also you'll get Adi Leela. First part you will get the first 7-8 chapters are there about the tattvas, Advait Tattva, Chaitanya Tattva, Nityanand Prabhu's Tattva, and then Panch Tattva. And then in the 8th chapter, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami gets the orders like that. And then 9 to 12 uh, chapter is there. After that, the actual pastime begins. Matlab, the childhood pastime is basically from 12th chapter onwards, I think, something like that. That part, 12 to 17, those part of Adi Leela. Very, very beautiful, sweet pastimes of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And prepare your consciousness for Gaur Purnima and have nice time. Offer best gift we can give to the lordships on the festivals is a consciousness which is ready. Radhanath Maharaj says consciousness means life. When we offer our consciousness, actually we are offering the essence of our life. Like that. So we can offer the best consciousness if we are ready to receive Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Thank you very much. Meet all of you. Many of you will join in Kanpur, hopefully, for the camp. Raisham Proji is coming. Hare Krishna, Shil Prabhupada ki Jai.